The golden towers of Theron Prime reached high into the purple sky. Inside the tallest tower, the Grand Council of the Kalox Empire was having a celebration. They had just conquered another world. Another species had fallen to their mighty fleet. Admiral Vextar stood before the massive crystal screen that showed the new slaves working in the mines. His 4 arms moved as he spoke to the council members. His skin was dark blue like deep space, and his eyes glowed red with satisfaction. The Vorthan people tried to fight us, Vextar said with a laugh. Their weapons were like toys against our ships. Now they dig for us on their frozen world. Soon we will have enough crystals to power 10 more fleets. The council members made clicking sounds with their mandibles. This was how the Kalox showed they were happy. Emperor Thaklos sat on his throne made from the bones of defeated enemies. He was twice as tall as the other Kalox, with golden markings that showed his royal blood. "Tell me about these new creatures," the Emperor said. His voice was deep and scary. "The ones that sent the strange messages." Vextar touched a control pad. The screen changed to show a small ship floating in space. It looked simple and rough compared to the smooth, living ships of the Kalox Empire. "They call themselves humans, my Emperor. They sent messages asking for safe passage through our space. They say they are exploring the galaxy." Vextar's voice was full of mockery. "They want to be friends." The council members clicked their mandibles even louder. Some of them made hissing sounds that meant they found something very funny. "Look at their ship," said Councillor Zekrath, pointing at the screen with one of her sharp claws. "It is made of metal and has no life in it. How can such a dead thing travel between stars? And look at the creatures inside," added another council member. The screen showed pictures of humans that had been sent with their peaceful messages. "They have only 2 arms. How do they fight with only 2 arms? And they have soft skin with no natural armor." Emperor Thaklos leaned forward on his throne. The bones creaked under his weight. "Show me their weapons," he commanded. The screen changed again. It showed the human ship from different angles. The Kalox had been watching it for 3 days since it arrived at the edge of their star system. "We can see no weapons, my Emperor," Vextar said. "Perhaps they are hidden, but our scanners show nothing dangerous. The ship is small. Maybe 100 of the creatures could fit inside." 100. The Emperor stood up. His height was impressive even to the other tall Kalox. "We have destroyed fleets of thousands. What can 100 soft mammals do against the might of our empire?" Inside the human ship called Soul's Thunder, Captain Kim Dae-ho sat in his command chair. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of computers. Kim was a man of 40 years, with gray starting to show in his black hair. His dark eyes were calm but alert as he watched the alien ships on his main screen. "Captain," said Han Woo-jin from the communications station. He was younger than Kim, maybe 30 years old. "We're getting more signals from the alien fleet. They're not responding to our peace messages." Kim nodded slowly. "How many ships do our sensors show, Lee?" Lee Jun-ki looked up from his tactical station. He had been in the military for 15 years and knew how to read battle signs. 200 ships, Captain. They're all bigger than us. Some of them are 10 times our size. And they're moving closer," added Young So-young from the sensor station. She was the youngest officer on the bridge, but she was very good at her job. "The nearest ships are only 1 million kilometers away now." Kim touched a button on his chair. "All hands, this is the captain. We are still trying to make peaceful contact with the alien fleet. Stay at your stations and remain calm." Park Min-ah looked up from her weapons station. She was Kim's oldest friend and had served with him for many years. "Captain, maybe we should power up our defenses, just in case." "Not yet, Min-ah," Kim said quietly. "We came here in peace. We'll give them every chance to respond in peace." Back on Theron Prime, Emperor Thaklos was making his decision. "Send Admiral Vextar with 50 ships," he commanded. "Show these humans what happens when mammals dare to enter Kalox space without permission." "Only 50 ships, my Emperor?" Vextar asked. "Would it not be safer to use more?" The Emperor's red eyes glowed brighter with anger. "Are you afraid of soft creatures with 2 arms? 50 ships could destroy a planet. One little ship with 100 mammals should not need even 10 ships." "Yes, my Emperor," Vextar said quickly. He bowed his 4 arms. "It will be done. Within an hour, 50 Kalok's warships were moving toward the human vessel. Each ship was beautiful and terrible. They looked like giant sea creatures made of crystal and metal, with weapons that could melt mountains. On Sol's Thunder, the crew watched the approaching fleet. "Captain," Han Woo-jin said, his voice tight with worry, "I'm sending our message again. Full translation, all frequencies. We're telling them we want peace, and we only need safe passage." The answer came quickly. A bright energy beam shot past Sol's Thunder and hit a large asteroid nearby. The rock exploded into millions of pieces that sparkled in the starlight. "Warning, shot," Lee Junki said grimly. "They want us to know they can destroy us." Kim was quiet for a long moment. He thought about the 3 billion people living on the human colonies. He thought about the families waiting for their exploration ships to return with news of safe trade routes. He thought about the children who would grow up in a galaxy that might not be safe for humans. "Send the message one more time," he said, finally. "Tell them we are peaceful explorers. We have no weapons pointed at them. We only want to pass through their space and continue our journey." The response was immediate and harsh. 10 energy beams fired at once, all aimed at Sol's Thunder. The human ship's shields flared bright blue as they absorbed the attack. Warning lights flashed on every station. "Shields at 80%, called Choi Se-jin from the engineering station. She was the best engineer Kim had ever worked with. "They're testing us, Captain. That wasn't meant to destroy us." "They want to see what we can do," Park Min-ah said. Her hands moved over her weapons controls, but she didn't activate anything yet. Admiral Vexitar's voice came over the communication system. The ship's computer translated his words into human language. "Soft creatures, you are in the space of the great Kalok's empire. Turn around and go back to whatever small world you came from. This is your only warning." Kim looked around his bridge at his crew. These people had followed him across the galaxy. They trusted him to make the right choice. He touched his communication button. "This is Captain Kim Dae-ho of the Terran Colonial Defense Force vessel Sol's Thunder. We request safe passage through your space for peaceful exploration. We have no hostile intentions toward your empire or your people." The response was 50 energy beams fired at once. Sol's Thunder shook as her shields absorbed the massive attack. More warning lights flashed. The crew held on to their stations as the ship rocked back and forth. "Shields at 50%, Choi Se-jin reported. "Captain, if they keep this up, they'll break through our defenses." Kim closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, they were harder than before. "Han, open a channel to the alien fleet." "Channel open, Captain." Kim's voice was calm, but carried a tone that his crew had learned to respect. "This is Captain Kim Dae-ho. You have fired upon a vessel operating under peaceful exploration protocols. This is your final warning. Stand down immediately, or we will respond with appropriate force." On the alien command ship, Admiral Vexitar and his officers looked at each other in amazement. Then they began to laugh. The sound was like metal scraping against stone. "Did the soft creature just threaten us?" asked Commander Zelvak. "One small ship against 50 of our warships?" "The mammals must be insane," Vexitar said, still laughing. "Or perhaps they don't understand numbers. Show them what real power looks like. All ships, full attack. Destroy them." 50 Kalok's warships opened fire at the same time. The space around Sol's Thunder filled with deadly energy, but Captain Kim and his crew were ready for war. The real battle was about to begin. The space around Sol's Thunder exploded with light and energy. 50 alien warships fired their weapons at the same time. Beams of plasma hot enough to melt steel cut through space toward the human ship. But something strange happened. The beams hit Sol's Thunder and seemed to disappear into her hull. The ship glowed bright blue for a moment, then returned to normal. Commander Zelvak stared at his instruments in confusion. "Admiral, our weapons hit the target, but there's no damage. How is this possible?" Admiral Vexitar moved his forearms quickly over his controls. His red eyes grew brighter with anger. "Fire again! All weapons! Maximum power!" The second attack was even stronger than the first. Energy weapons that could crack moons focused on the small human ship. But again, Sol's Thunder absorbed the attack like a sponge absorbing water. On the human bridge, Captain Kim sat calmly in his chair. "Report," he said quietly. "Shields holding at 45%, called Choi Se-jin from engineering. The absorption matrix is working perfectly, Captain. Their energy is feeding our reactors. Park Min-ah looked up from her weapons station. Captain, I have target locks on all 50 ships. Say the word and I can return their fire. Not yet, Kim said. We still hope for peace. Lee Jun-ki watched his tactical display. Captain, they're spreading out, trying to surround us. Classic attack formation. Young So-young's hands danced over her sensor controls. I'm reading massive energy buildups on all their ships. They're preparing for another attack, much stronger this time. On the alien flagship, Admiral Vextar was getting angry. His skin was turning from dark blue to purple, which meant he was ready to fight. How are these mammals doing this? Our weapons should have destroyed them twice over. Perhaps they have some kind of special armor, suggested Commander Zelvac. The primitive races sometimes use thick metal plates. Then we'll use boarding pods, Vextar decided. Even if their ship is strong, the soft creatures inside are still weak. Send 20 assault pods. Fill them with our best warriors. The Kalox assault pods looked like giant insects made of metal and crystal. Each pod carried 10 Kalox warriors, the deadliest fighters in the galaxy. These warriors were 3 meters tall, with natural armor plates covering their bodies. Their claws could cut through steel, and their strength was 10 times that of a normal Kalox. The pods shot out from the alien ships like bullets. They moved fast, dodging and weaving to avoid being hit. Their job was to punch holes in Soul's thunder and let the warriors inside. Incoming boarding pods, Lee Jun-ki announced. 20 pods, 200 enemy warriors. Let them come, Kim said calmly. Nam, are your people ready? Nam Ki-bum stood up from his security station. He was a big man, even bigger than most humans, with scars on his hands from many battles. Ready, Captain. We've been waiting for this. The first boarding. Pods hit Soul's Thunder's hull with loud crashes. Their drill tips spun at high speed, cutting through the outer armor like it was paper. Warning sirens began to sound throughout the ship. Hull breaches in sections 7, 12, and 18, reported Ko Sung-ho from damage control. Emergency! Force fields are in place. The Kalox warriors poured into the human ship like a flood of death. They were huge and scary, with glowing red eyes and claws that dripped with poison. Each warrior carried weapons that could punch holes through tank armor. The first group of warriors broke into Corridor 7. They expected to find terrified humans running and screaming. Instead, they found Park Min-ah waiting for them. She was not alone. Behind her stood 12 human security officers in black armor that seemed to drink in the light. Their faces were hidden behind helmets, but their weapons were clearly visible. Welcome to Soul's Thunder, Park Min-ah said in perfect Kalox language. Please surrender, and you will not be harmed. The lead Kalox warrior laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Soft mammals think they can fight Kalox warriors? We have conquered 1,000 worlds. The warrior charged at Park Min-ah, moving faster than any human should be able to follow. His claws reached out to tear her apart. Park Min-ah didn't move until the last second. Then she stepped aside so fast she seemed to disappear. The warrior crashed into the wall behind her, leaving deep claw marks in the metal. I gave you a chance, she said sadly. The battle in the corridor was short and brutal. The Kalox warriors were strong and fast, but the humans were faster. Their armor made them almost invisible in the dim light of the ship's corridors. Their weapons fired beams of energy that cut through Kalox's natural armor like it wasn't there. In less than 5 minutes, all 10 warriors in Corridor 7 were unconscious or dead. Park Min-ah spoke into her communicator. Section 7 is secure. The same thing was happening all over the ship. In Section 12, Nam Ki-bum fought 3 warriors at once. His powered armor made him as strong as they were, and his training made him deadlier. In Section 18, Song Yun-ji, the medical officer, used gas weapons that put the aliens to sleep before they could hurt anyone. Admiral Vextar watched his assault teams disappear from his screens one by one. This is impossible, he growled. Our warriors are the best in the galaxy. How are soft mammals defeating them? Commander Zelvac was studying the sensor readings. Admiral, I'm getting strange readings from the human ship. It's not built like any ship we've seen before. What do you mean? Look at these power signatures. Their reactor is putting out energy equal to a small star. And their hull? It's not just armor, Admiral. It's alive. It's healing itself. Vextar looked at the readings and felt something he hadn't felt in many years. Fear. That's not possible. No ship can heal itself. On Sol's Thunder, the last boarding pod had been dealt with. Captain Kim listened to the reports from all sections of his ship. All boarding parties neutralized, Nam Ki-bum reported. We have 47 alien prisoners. Medical is treating their wounds. Any casualties on our side? Kim asked. 3 minor injuries, Song Yun-ji reported from the medical bay. Nothing serious. The aliens fought hard, but they weren't ready. For our equipment, Kim nodded. He touched his communication button. All stations, this is the captain. The boarding attempt has failed. Stand by for the next phase. Han Woo-jin looked worried. Captain, I'm picking up more signals from the alien fleet. They're calling for reinforcements. How many more ships? Kim asked. All of them, Lee Jun-ki said grimly. Every ship in their fleet is moving toward us. 200 ships total. Jung So-young's voice was tight with concern. Captain, I'm reading weapons signatures that are off the scale. They're bringing planet-killer weapons to bear on us. Kim was quiet for a long moment. He looked around his bridge at the people he had served with for so many years. They had been through danger before, but never anything like this. Choi, how are our systems holding up? All systems green, Captain, the engineer replied. The energy from their attacks has actually charged our batteries to full power. We could run for months on what they've given us. Minna, weapon status? Park Minna's voice was steady. All weapons ready, Captain. I have target locks on their entire fleet. Just say when. Kim thought about the peaceful message they had tried to send. He thought about the families back home who were counting on them to find safe trade routes. He thought about the aliens who were about to attack his ship with enough firepower to destroy planets. This is Captain Kim Dae-ho, he said into the communication system. We are still willing to leave your space peacefully. We have no wish to harm you or your people. This is your last chance to avoid unnecessary death. The response came from Emperor Thaklos himself. His voice was full of rage and hatred. Soft mammals, you have humiliated my warriors and defied my empire. For this insult, your entire species will be enslaved. We will find your home world and make your people suffer for 1,000 years. Kim closed his eyes and took a deep breath. When he opened them, they were hard as steel. All hands, this is the captain. We tried diplomacy. We tried peace. They have chosen war. He paused, then spoke the words that would change everything. All departments, transition to combat protocols. This is not a drill. All over Sol's Thunder, systems that had been sleeping began to wake up. Lights changed from soft blue to bright red. The ship's hull began to change, opening ports that had been hidden. The reactor that had been running at low power started to build up energy that made the space around the ship shimmer. Admiral Vextar saw the changes on his sensors. What is that ship doing? He demanded. Commander Zelvak's voice was filled with fear. Admiral, I recommend we retreat. Something is wrong. That ship is not what it appears to be. Retreat? Vextar's voice rose to a roar. The Galactic Empire does not retreat from soft mammals. All ships attack formation. Show them the true power of our empire. 200 alien warships moved into attack position around Sol's Thunder. Each ship was loaded with weapons that could destroy cities. Together they had enough firepower to crack a planet in half. But Captain Kim and his crew were no longer trying to avoid a fight. They were preparing to show the galaxy what humans could do when they stopped holding back. By, real war was about to begin. All weapons, prepare to fire, Park Minna announced. The aliens had no idea what they had just awakened. Captain Kim looked around his bridge one more time. His crew had served with him through peaceful exploration missions across dozens of star systems. They had mapped new worlds, made contact with friendly species, and helped build trade routes between civilizations. But now they faced something different. War. All departments, this is the captain, Kim spoke into his communication system. We tried peace. We offered friendship. They have chosen violence against innocent explorers. Authorization Kim Alpha 77. Release all safeties on primary combat systems. Throughout Soul's Thunder, things began to change. The ship had been built to look simple and harmless from the outside, but that was never the truth. Humanity had learned harsh lessons about the galaxy's dangers long before this day. Oh Hyun-woo sat at a station that most people thought was for navigation computers, but when Kim spoke the authorization code, hidden panels slid open around Hyun-woo's station. New displays came to life, showing systems that had been dormant since the ship left Earth. AI consciousness interface coming online, Hyun-woo reported. His voice was calm, but his hands shook slightly as he worked the controls. Captain, are you sure about this? I'm sure, Kim replied. Wake her up. Deep in Soul's Thunder's core, something that had been sleeping began to dream. It was not human, but it had been made by humans. It had been born from human minds and given purpose by human hearts. It was the ship's real brain, and it had been waiting patiently for this moment. Good morning, Soul's Thunder, Hyun-woo said, softly to his controls. The response came not through speakers, but directly into the minds of everyone on the bridge. The voice was female and warm, but underneath it was power beyond imagination. Good morning, crew. I have been monitoring the situation. We are surrounded by hostile forces with overwhelming numbers and firepower. Shall I assume combat control? Negative, Kim said quickly. We maintain command. You provide support and advanced systems management. Understood, Captain. All my systems are at your disposal. Shin Yerin looked up from her engineering station with wonder and fear in her eyes. Captain, power levels are climbing beyond anything I've ever seen. The reactor is putting out energy equal to a small star. That's not the reactor, Choi Se-jin said from her main engineering panel. That's coming from the quantum core. The AI is tapping into zero-point energy. Around Soul's Thunder, the Galactic fleet was regrouping after their failed planet killer attack. The three massive weapons had fired enough energy to crack worlds, but the small human ship had absorbed it all without taking any damage. Commander Zelvok, now in charge after Admiral Vexastar's death, stared at his sensor readings with growing fear. The human ship is changing again. Power readings are climbing beyond our sensors' ability to measure. It doesn't matter how much power they have, growled another Galactic officer. Numbers will win. We still have 191 ships against their one. Emperor Thaklos watched from his command ship, his red eyes burning with rage and something else, something that might have been respect, though he would never admit it. Send a message to the human ship, he commanded. My Emperor? I want to speak to their commander, directly. On Soul's Thunder, Han Woo-jin looked up from his communication station. Captain, we're getting a direct signal from the Emperor's ship. He wants to talk to you personally. Put him through, Kim said. The main screen changed to show Emperor Thaklos on his throne made of bones. He was even more impressive than the humans had imagined, towering over his servants with natural armor that gleamed like black metal. Human Captain, the Emperor said, his voice carrying the weight of absolute power. I am Emperor Thaklos, ruler of 10,000 worlds and master of 1 billion slaves. You have impressed me with your weapons and your ship. I offer you one chance to surrender. Join my empire as my personal war fleet, and I will let your species live as my servants. Kim stood up from his captain's chair. He was much smaller than the alien emperor, but his voice carried its own kind of power. Emperor Thaklos. I am Captain Kim Dae-ho of the Terran Colonial Defense Force. We came in peace, seeking only safe passage. You chose war. We will finish what you started. The emperor leaned forward on his throne. You speak of finishing what I started. You are one ship against nearly 200. Your weapons are impressive, but you cannot defeat an entire fleet. You're right, Kim said quietly. One ship probably cannot defeat your entire fleet. The aliens on the Emperor's bridge looked satisfied. Finally, the mammals were admitting their weakness. Kim continued. But Soul's Thunder is not just one ship. She is the product of 500 years of human engineering. She is the result of humanity's hard-learned lessons about galactic survival. She is what we build when we stop pretending the universe is a safe place. The human captain paused, then spoke words that would echo through galactic history. You wanted to see human technology, Emperor. Now you will see what we're really capable of. Kim turned to his crew. All stations, full combat configuration. Show them what Soul's Thunder really is. The transformation began immediately. Soul's Thunder's hull started changing shape, flowing like liquid metal. Sections that had appeared smooth and simple split open to reveal weapon systems that defied the aliens' understanding of physics. Ko Sung-ho watched his damage control screens with amazement. Captain, the ship is rebuilding herself. Hull sections are moving to optimal combat configuration. Armor is thickening in critical areas. Weapon ports are opening throughout the ship. How many weapon ports? Park Min-ah asked. 3,712, Ko Sung-ho replied, and more are still opening. The Kalok's fleet watched in horror as the simple human ship revealed its true nature. What had appeared to be a peaceful exploration vessel was transforming into something that looked like a weapon given life. All ships attack now, Commander Zelvak ordered. Don't let them finish their transformation. The remaining Kalok's fleet opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams, plasma cannons, particle streams, and exotic matter torpedoes filled space around Soul's Thunder. The attack was so intense it created its own gravity field, but now Soul's Thunder fought back with her full power. The ship's AI consciousness took control of defensive systems that humans could never operate fast. Enough. She calculated the path of every incoming weapon and deployed countermeasures that turned enemy fire into harmless light shows. Missiles that should have penetrated her hull were caught by energy fields and redirected back at their launchers. Defensive. Systems at maximum efficiency, the AI reported calmly. Enemy weapons are causing no damage. Shall I demonstrate our offensive capabilities? Do it, Kim said grimly. Soul's Thunder opened fire with weapons that had never been seen in this part of the galaxy. The first weapon created tears in space itself, allowing the ship to fire through dimensions and hit targets from impossible angles. Kalok's ships exploded as energy beams emerged from empty space behind them. The second weapon manipulated gravity, creating crushing forces that turned alien warships into compressed balls of metal and flesh. The third weapon fired streams of antimatter contained in magnetic bottles, annihilating everything they touched. But the most terrifying weapon was the fourth. It fired something that looked like ordinary light, but when it hit an enemy ship, that ship simply stopped existing. Not destroyed, not vaporized, just gone, as if it had never been there at all. What are those weapons? Emperor Thaklos demanded. Of his scientists. We don't know, my emperor, replied his head of weapons research, his voice trembling with fear. They're using technologies we've never encountered. They're manipulating fundamental forces of the universe itself. In the first 30 seconds of Soul's Thunder's real attack, 20 Kalok's warships were destroyed. In the next 30 seconds, 30 more died. The human ship moved through the enemy formation like death itself, her weapons reaching out to touch ships dozens of kilometers away. Yoon Tae-hyun guided the ship through the battle with precision that seemed impossible. Soul's Thunder danced between enemy formations, striking from unexpected angles and disappearing before return fire. Could be effective. How is their pilot doing this? Asked a Kalok's navigator. No organic mind can process information this fast. Maybe their pilot isn't organic, suggested another alien. Maybe they're all machines. Commander Zelvak studied his tactical display, as his fleet was systematically destroyed. No, they're organic. I can see them on their bridge, but they're working together with their ship's intelligence in ways we've never seen. Soul's Thunder continued her deadly dance. Lee Junki coordinated target selection while Jung So-young provided sensor data on enemy movements. Park Min-ah managed the incredible variety of weapons systems, each one designed for different tactical situations. 60 enemy ships destroyed, she reported calmly. Remaining hostile count 131. But the most impressive part of the human ship's performance was not her weapons or her defenses. It was her ability to learn and adapt during the battle itself. The AI is analyzing enemy tactics in real time, Oh Hyun-woo reported with amazement in his voice. She's predicting their movements and adjusting our strategy automatically. Enemy weapons are becoming less effective as we learn their patterns, added Shin Ye-rin from her energy systems station. The space around Soul's Thunder began to change in ways that defied understanding. Reality itself seemed to bend and twist as the human ship prepared to demonstrate the true power of human engineering. Captain Kim looked around his bridge last time. His crew had given the aliens every chance for peace. They had offered friendship, safe passage, and even mercy after being attacked. But the Galactic Empire had chosen war at every turn. "Stellar collection systems online," reported Choi, Sejin from her engineering station. Her voice was steady, but Kim could see the awe in her eyes as she watched power readings climb beyond anything she had ever imagined. Soul's thunder began to extend massive energy collectors from her hull. They unfolded like the petals of a flower, each one larger than a city. The collectors turned toward the system's star and began drawing power directly from its nuclear furnace. "What are they doing?" Emperor Thaklos demanded from his command ship. His scientists and weapons experts stared at their instruments in confusion and growing fear. "They're tapping directly into stellar energy," whispered his chief scientist. "But that's impossible. The power output would destroy any ship." On Soul's thunder, Shin Ye-rin watched her energy systems display with wonder. "Captain, we're channeling the power of a star through our weapons systems. I've never seen readings like this." "How much power?" Kim asked quietly. "Enough to light up a solar system," she replied. "Captain, with this much energy, we could crack the planet below us like an egg." The remaining Galactic ships, now down to 129 vessels, began their final desperate attack. They had nothing left to lose. Their empire had been humiliated by a single human ship, and their pride demanded they fight to the death rather than surrender. Commander Zelvak led the charge personally, his ship racing toward Soul's thunder at maximum speed. "All ships ramming speed. If we cannot destroy them with weapons, we'll tear them apart with our hulls." The alien fleet charged forward like a wave of death, but Soul's thunder was ready for them. An Jae-won sat at the quantum weapons station, his hands steady on controls that channeled forces beyond normal understanding. "Captain, quantum weapon systems are fully charged. I can tear holes in space-time itself." "Do it," Kim commanded. The first quantum weapon fired, and space itself screamed. A rift opened in the fabric of reality, and through it came energy from the heart of distant stars. 3 Galactic ships disappeared into the rift before it closed safely, leaving only empty space where they had been. "Dimensional warfare protocols active," reported the ship's AI in her calm, warm voice. "Opening multiple firing corridors through folded space." Park Min-ah's weapons console came alive with targeting options that spanned dimensions. She could now fire at enemy ships from angles that shouldn't exist, striking them from directions that had no meaning in normal space. "Multiple targets locked through dimensional rifts," she announced. Firing, Soul's Thunder's weapons reached through holes in space to strike Galac's ships from behind, from below, from directions that made no sense to three-dimensional thinking. Enemy vessels exploded as weapons fire emerged from empty space around them. "This is madness," Commander Zelvak gasped as his own ship was hit by weapons that fired from nowhere. "How can they attack us from directions that don't exist?" But the true demonstration of human power was yet to come. Lim Ha-na coordinated the ship's defensive systems as the remaining Galac's fleet continued their desperate attack. Enemy weapons still fired constantly, but now they faced defenses that had been perfected over 5 centuries of human warfare. "Defense grid at maximum efficiency," she reported. "Enemy weapons are being absorbed, redirected, and neutralized. Some of their shots are being sent back through dimensional rifts to hit their own ships." The Galac's fleet was now shooting itself as their own weapons were captured and redirected by human technology. Ships exploded from what appeared to be friendly fire, but was actually their own weapons turned against them. 60 ships remaining, Young So-young reported from sensors. "They're still approaching, but their formation is falling apart." Bae Dong-min studied the tactical situation from his strategic analysis station. "Captain, at current rate of destruction, the enemy fleet will be completely eliminated in 4 minutes and 37 seconds. But Emperor Thaklos was not finished yet. His massive command ship, larger than a small moon, began moving toward the battle zone. It had stayed back during the fighting, but now the Emperor himself was entering the battle. "If my fleet cannot destroy one human ship," he roared to his bridge crew, "then I will do it myself. Activate the Imperial Throne Weapon." His command ship was more than just a vessel. It was a mobile fortress carrying the most powerful weapon in the Galactic Empire. The Imperial throne weapon could destroy entire solar systems, turning stars themselves into weapons against enemy worlds. "Captain," Han Wujin announced with worry in his voice, "the Emperor's ship is powering up something massive. Energy readings are off the scale." "How massive?" Kim asked. Li Junqi studied his tactical display with growing concern. "System killer class, Captain. That weapon could turn our sun into a weapon against us." Emperor Thaklos stood up from his throne made of bones, his massive form towering over his bridge. "Human Captain, you have shown me weapons I did not know existed. But now you will see the true power of the Galactic Empire. My Imperial throne weapon will turn your own star against you." The massive weapon began to charge, drawing power from the cores of a dozen smaller ships that fed it energy. Space around. The Emperor's command ship began to glow with deadly light as forces capable of destroying solar systems built up to firing strength. Captain Kim looked at his crew one more time. They had come so far together, exploring the galaxy and seeking peaceful contact with new civilizations. Now they faced a weapon that could kill their sun and destroy every human colony in this part of space. "Choi," he said quietly, "can we stop that weapon?" "Not with conventional systems," she replied. "That thing is too powerful." "What about unconventional systems?" Choi Se-jin looked at her engineering displays, then at Captain Kim. "Captain, we do have one option, but I need to warn you about what it means." "Explain." Sol's Thunder was built with one final protocol, something we hoped we would never need to use. We can turn our own ship into a stellar engineering platform. The bridge was quiet for a moment as everyone understood what she meant. "We can reach out and control the star itself," Choi continued. "Use stellar forces as our weapons. But Captain, once we activate that system, there's no hiding what we are anymore. The entire galaxy will know that humans have technology that can manipulate stars." Kim thought about the colonies back home, full of families who trusted him to find safe trade routes through the galaxy. He thought about the children who would grow up in a universe that might never be safe for humans if word of this power spread to hostile species. Then he thought about Emperor Thaklos preparing to turn their own sun into a weapon against them. "Do it," he commanded. "All hands," Choi Se-jin announced throughout the ship. "Stellar engineering protocols are now active. This is not a drill." Deep in Sol's Thunder's core, systems that had been theoretical until this moment came online. The ship extended new kinds of energy collectors, ones designed not just to gather stellar power, but to control it. The collectors reached out across millions of kilometers of space, invisible tendrils of force that touched the system's star and began to influence its nuclear fires. For the first time in galactic history, a species was reaching out to control the power of a sun itself. "Stellar engineering online," reported the ship's AI. "I have direct interface with the star's fusion processes. What are your orders, Captain?" Kim looked at the Emperor's weapon, still charging up to destroy everything human in this system. "Show them what humans can do when we stop holding back." Sol's Thunder reached out to the star and began to guide its power. The sun's light changed color as human technology influenced its nuclear heart. Solar flares, each one larger than entire planets, began to build up according to human design. "This is impossible," gasped the Emperor's chief scientist. "They're controlling our star. No species has ever had such power." The first solar flare erupted from the star's surface, guided by Sol's Thunder's stellar engineering systems. It raced across space at nearly the speed of light, a wall of nuclear fire, large enough to swallow worlds. But it didn't strike randomly. Human precision guided it to strike exactly where Sol's Thunder wanted it to hit. The solar flare struck Emperor Thaklos's command ship just as the Imperial throne weapon finished charging. The massive vessel, larger than a small moon, was engulfed in stellar fire that burned at temperatures equal to the heart of a star. The Imperial throne weapon exploded as stellar fire overwhelmed its systems. The explosion was so bright it could be seen from other solar systems. A new star being born from the death of the Empire's most powerful weapon. Emperor Thaklos had just enough time to understand what had happened before his ship was consumed by the fire of the sun itself. The remaining Galac's fleet, now reduced to fewer than 30 ships, watched their emperor die in stellar fire. They watched a human ship reach out across space to control their own star like a weapon. They watched the impossible become reality.